Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Clum Dog Outdoors. Today we are out here on Sasheen Lake. I have a few different ideas on things that I want to do today. To start out, I'm going to try to do some more structure mapping. I'm trying to get dialed in for the ice fishing season. And I just figured out how to do my own contour mapping on the Garmin with a live scope. So my first goal is to do some structure mapping to get a lot more detailed maps for the ice fishing. Second goal is to use the live scope and kind of do some sharpshooting for the rainbows, the tigers, tiger trout, and then maybe some perch and some crappie a little bit later in the day. But I have a couple goals for the day. I'm going to go through all the steps and the processes of what I'm doing for the structure mapping and for the sharpshooting on the live scope. So it should be a good video. You guys stick around and check it out. Let's go fishing, bud. Let's go fishing. Come on, load up. Load up. Good boy. So I'm just going to start out right outside the weed beds here. That's the boat launch right there behind me. I don't want to start right on the shoreline because I know it's relatively shallow. So outside edge of the weed beds is where I'm going to start my contouring, and I'll show you guys how to get that all set up. Okay, so this is kind of the main home screen on the Garmin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right here to charts. I'm going to go to fishing chart. And this has already got some contour mapping on it, but it's not super accurate. I want to be kind of that spot on the spot type of deal. So I'm going to go to menu, quick draw contours, and then I'm just going to start recording. Accept. Okay, so now that I'm recording, I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in here. So basically this circle right there, that's going to show me exactly what the depth contours are. As I start moving the boat, I'm going to start, let's see, I'll get the bow mount set up here real quick. You can use the main motor, but I just got the bow mount down right there. But as I'm moving around, it's going to start slowly creating a map for me, showing me the different depth contours and hopefully being able to find that spot on the spot. So that's my original goal to start, and that's what we're going to do. So I realized it was going to take too long to use the bow mount, so I just got the main motor kicked on, and just slowly cruising around this whole little area. And as I'm doing this cruising, it's creating a pretty nice structure map for me. So I'm just going to do this for probably the next 15 or 20 minutes, build a nice map, and I'll show you kind of what I came up with here in a little bit. So keep moving around, keep playing, give it 20 minutes. Doesn't take long. I'm running 6 miles an hour right now and building my own structure map. So if it takes a little bit of time, it's worth it. And then I can have just a super detailed map come ice fishing. So I'll show you. Okay, so I just went through and recorded everything in the dark green is everything that I just recorded. If I zoom in, you can see there's a lot more detail on these structure lines. I can really get to there's a nice little point right there. I can really get on the spot and have a lot more accurate reading than what the original contour lines are, which is, I mean, they're kind of close, but it doesn't give me the accuracy that I'm really looking for, especially come ice fishing, to where I can find, okay, there's this nice little hump right there. Let's go sit up right there. Maybe there's some fish staged up on it. And that's the point of doing this whole recording system, is just being a lot more accurate and trying to find those spots on the spots. But I got that done. Now let's go fishing. Okay, so I got all the recording done. That took me maybe a half hour. I spent a little bit more time on it just to kind of get it done and over with for my main ice fishing areas. But I got the contouring done. So now let's go try to find some spots and see if we can't sharp shoot some trout, perch or crappie or something like that. And then I'll show you kind of what we're using as we're fishing for those. So stick around. Time for fishing. The work's done. Time for play. All right. I just got the first fish, doing some sharp shooting. It's a beautiful tiger trout, using that tiny little gold spoon. Woo! Careful, bud. These fish just have absolutely gorgeous colors on them. I love these tigers. It's one of my favorite species of trout to catch. Just really, really pretty fish and kind of different. I'll let him go. Yeah, that one was caught on this tiny little gold spoon. Got a little bend in it. I tuned it up a little bit different. It had a lot bigger bend in it, so I changed up the tuning. Just spotted him on the live scope, just out here about 40 feet. Pitched it out there, let it fall, and he was kind of being super aggressive with it. So as I was popping it, he was chasing it up, chasing on the way down, chasing it up, chasing on the way down, and came through and smoked it. Yeah, that's number one. Yeah, there we go. Number two. I'm just slowly, where are you going? I'm just slowly moving the boat around. I was back here about, another 300 feet. I'm just slowly working my way up this shelf line. Just keeping an eye on the live scope, looking for fish that are suspended higher in the water column. It seems like the higher in the column they are, the more active they are, and the more likely they're gonna bite it. So I know a lot of people are saying it's kind of cheating. The live scope sure is a pretty handy tool to have, to say the least. But you also got to know how to use it. There's a nice, pretty little rainbow trout. Thing is gorgeous. Not very big, but pretty. Woo. Get him back in the water. Yeah, this live scope is a super handy tool. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot about it in the bass circuits, the walleye circuits. There's a lot of people that go back and forth on their feelings about it, but if you're willing to invest the money and you're willing to take the time to actually use it accurately, it can be a really solid tool. But at the end of the day, you still got to be out there and you still got to, have the right presentation, make the right cast, be accurate on everything that you could do and still be able to catch these fish. But that's what I'm doing. I'm live scoping, and I'm not mad about it, and I'm not going to apologize for it because it's a lot of fun. So let's get some more. I want another big tiger, like a big tiger trout. So we'll stick with it. So what can be really tough is that, the wind is blowing. It's not super heavy breeze right now, but the wind is blowing. And with this live scope, you see me keep turning this handle, basically it's pointing in a certain direction. So if there's a fish 20 feet or 60 feet in front of the boat, I'm pointed that way, or off to the side or back or whatever. But as the boat's rotating, with the wind and everything else and the spot lock for the bow mount, so I can make an accurate cast, dead nuts, have it on the fish finder, and the boat moves just a little bit, and now I can't see my bait anymore and I can't see that fish anymore. So that's where I'm making these little minor adjustments, and I'm turning that transducer toward where those fish are at and where my bait is at. So it's kind of tricky. It's a two-handed type of deal. You cast out and then you constantly have to move that transducer in order to keep it pointed right at your fish as the boat's rotating and doing everything else. So there's a lot that goes on to it, that goes on with it. It can be very frustrating, but it can also be a really accurate tool. So we'll do some scanning around. We'll do a 360 scan, see where I can mark a fish. It'll tell me if it's 20, 40, 60, 80 feet away. Blast out to it and see how he reacts to my bait as I'm doing it. So do a quick scan and see what we can find. Okay, so I'm marking a trout 10 feet below the surface, 40, 50 feet out this way. So I had those fish, but then, yeah, the boat just turned 270 degrees from when I first cast it. So it's, live scope isn't 100% cheating. It can be a very difficult, frustrating tool to use, especially if you have just a slight breeze. It's not even heavy winds. It's just the wind is swirling right here in this little bay, and not a whole lot I can do about it. Spit the hook right there at the net. Thankfully. Ooh, he's just a little guy. Come on, come on. Here we go. Tiny little rainbow trout. Woo. So I ended up switching up my baits again. I got just a tiny little tungsten fly. I put a little bit of garlic crawfish scent on it, so it stinks, but yeah, that tiny little fly, just letting it drop all the way down, and boom, got another one. So after doing a bunch of searching around, looking for all these trout, I just landed on a giant school of crappie. So I'm gonna sit right on top of them and just hammer out a bunch of crappie real quick. Check this out. There is a mountain of them down there. Ooh, crappie! This is gonna be a slaughter. Just spit the hook. Nice crappie. Boom. It's a dandy crappie right there. Not a giant, but I don't know, 11 inches maybe. Yeah, this is awesome. I found, so there's a rope that's coming up through the water column, and all these crappie are just stacked all around this rope right here. It's kind of hard because the boat keeps turning and pitching, but there's hundreds of them down there. Let me show you real quick. So this right here is like a piece of rope, and every single one of these dots, those are all fish. And they're all crappie just stacked up right there. Each individual one moving around. Yeah, a ton of fish. So right now they're 22 feet away from me. The zero is right where my transducer is here in the back of the boat. But yeah, you can see these fish moving around. There's another one swimming in over here to the right. Those are all fish right there, just absolutely stacked. It's pretty sweet. Boom. Oh man. All right, let's switch it up. Let's go with a little tantrum from Frostbite. It's one of my favorite lures, so let's try this out. Okay, so we slid off of the school as the boat's rotating. So when the boat is 180 degrees that way, the rear of the boat, then I'm pretty much right on top of it. But as of right now, I'm 40 feet away from it because I got a 20-foot boat. So I'm 40 feet away from it now. Not sure what the wind's gonna do, but I could bump forward 40 feet. Or I can sit and wait for the wind to rotate me back. But it seems like I have a consistent wind now, so I'm gonna bump the boat forward. Okay, so now I'm right back up on the school again. Just bump forward 40 feet, set on spot lock. Constant wind coming at me right now. Granted, it'll change, but you don't know. They are fired up on this. Fired up on the ice rod. Weird. This is so much fun. Slab City. Boo. Holy smokes. Take a look at that guy. He's got a weird chunk on the top of his head. Definitely the biggest crappie I've caught so far today. I mean, that's a really, really nice crappie. Not sure exactly how big he is, but he's unique. He's just a prehistoric guy, just a dinosaur. Super cool. We're gonna let him go. Man, this has been an absolute slaughter on the crappie. But there's no way I would have been able to find this spot if it wasn't for the live scope. I hate saying that and I hate relying on electronics like that, but as I was scanning around, I could see up to 120 feet out in whichever direction I'm panning. And I just happened to pan on the inside and I seen just it almost looked like a Christmas tree. Went over there, dropped down, and it's just a school of crappie. And this is a really tough lake to target the crappie on. We've came out here and done some night fishing with my buddy Steven, my wife and his wife, and we've done really well at night with the underwater lights, but it was in a completely different area. I'm glad I found this spot. This is something I'm going to be able to utilize in the wintertime also under the ice. Just a random piece of rope. I can see it looking down under the water from the surface. It's literally just a piece of rope, but there is hundreds of fish schooled around that one little piece of structure. So keeping that in mind, setting a waypoint on the fish finder, now I'm going to be able to come back later this winter, sit on this spot, hopefully drill a hole, a foot off of that little rope right there. And maybe I'll be able to pin down a bunch of crappie in the wintertime also. I'm kind of done slaughtering these fish. I could sit here all day and just continue to catch one after another, but it's a ton of fun, but I also don't want to beat up the fishery. Right now we're in 24 feet of water. Most of the crappie should be kind of hunkered up toward the shoreline, kind of staying in the shade. But for some reason they're not. They found a piece of offshore structure and that's where they're at. The trout, they're all suspended anywhere between 8 to 15 feet in the water column, and I'm kind of sticking around that 24 to 26 foot area out here in this main basin. Catching a few of those, but like I was saying earlier, with the boat constantly moving around and doing 360s, it's really hard to pick out a fish that's 40 feet away, make an accurate cast on it, and see what your bait is doing and how he's reacting to it, especially with the boat turning and flipping and moving. Like it's gonna do again. So yeah, being able to utilize the live scope is a really cool feature. Like I was saying earlier, I know a lot of people think it's cheating, but it's also kind of a pain in the ass to use. Thankfully, I was able to get some work done on it figured out today, located some crappie, located some trout. I was also able to build my structure map of this lake. So all in all, it's been super productive, and kind of my goals were accomplished, which was super awesome. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, wait a minute, because I did say it was September. It's early September. Water temps are at like 68 degrees. Hopefully they'll start cooling down soon. We kind of have a cold snap. I'm on the front end of a cold push right now. Last week it was all in the 90s. This week it's all going to be a high in like the 70s. So that barometric pressure change could make a huge difference also. I'm just trying to be as accurate and open as I can right now with what I'm using, what the depths I'm at, what the water temp is, how I was able to locate these fish. You saw the different baits that I was using on how to catch these fish. Ooh, watch out, Laker. Watch out, bud. Showing you how I was catching these fish. So hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you can come out here and do it yourself. The main thing is, you know, being a spot on the spot, knowing where you're going, how to target these fish, right time, right location, spot on the spot. Just be accurate, be more accurate. So I'm done rambling. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you like the new mustachio, a mustachio question. Yeah, we'll see you guys out there on the water. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. Fish on.